Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lastia Cahoot and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Hello, my name is Lastia, and I am here with my co-host, Glenn.
Hello.
And we have another special guest here today on another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? So today's special guest is someone that we have both actually known for a few years. We know her from Toronto, where Glenn and I lived about, 30 years of our lives together and individually. And so I can't remember exactly when I met our guest, but I know that she was a client of mine when I had my bakery. I know that she was neighbors with a really, really good friend of ours who actually also calls herself Glenn's second wife. Seema. Maybe we'll have her on the show one day so she can talk about that. And this is someone who I got to know much better. Both of us got to know better after we ventured into the Center for Spiritual Living Toronto several years ago, just a few months before we moved from Toronto to Victoria. So that is about, 4.5 years ago, so 5-ish years ago. I also had the opportunity to interview this individual about 5 years ago when I was working as an integrative nutrition health coach. And we had this tiny but mighty conversation on sort of connecting with your own truth about how thoughts and beliefs are the impetus for the reality that we create for ourselves. And then there's just so much more. So a little bit more about where this person is today and what has brought her up to this moment that she is as right now. She is passionate about helping people live an abundant life from the heart. She is a New Thought minister, a speaker, a teacher, a coach, a certified heart math trainer, and a supervising teacher for Hoffman Institute Canada. She is also a published author. She has 2 books to her name, A Year of Possibilities and 100 Minutes of Inspiration. And she is currently one of the founders of Welcome Home and is the spiritual director and founder of Welcome Home Toronto, which is dedicated to teaching people how to live from the quantum archetypes of love, kindness, abundance, justice, and wholeness. So that's just a little bit about who our super special guest is today. And so I'm going to ask her the big question that we ask everyone to start off this conscious conversation, which I know will just open up a floodgate of a whole bunch of other juicy stuff that we can talk about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Reverend Helen Valleau and ask Reverend Helen, who do you think you are?
Well, first of all, good morning. Good morning to you, and it's afternoon for me here in Toronto. And good morning, Glenn, and thank you for having me as a guest. It's lovely to see both of you. I get to see Lassie a little bit more regularly online than I do Glenn. Oh, and wow, who do I think I am? Well, I can tell you who I know I am. And I know that I am this immense bundle of energy that is always seeking to experience more. I think that is definitely one of my established premises, is that life is an adventure and I want to be on that adventurous ride. And then also looking to learn, evolve, and be of service in as many ways as possible. So I always see myself as this bundle of energy. And I would guess that my husband and daughter say, yeah, you're way too much energy. Both of them being introverts and I'm the extrovert.
Yeah. Well, that is a fantastic answer. I mean, energy, like even in the talk that we had 15 years ago, 5 years ago, then we were talking about how you were saying that thoughts and beliefs are like energy, not even like energy, they are energy. And the thoughts and beliefs that we have are the foundation for what we experience in our life. And it's something that is talked about quite often in new thought, in science of mind, in just a whole bunch of sort of milieu where the belief is that we create our reality, and that we create our reality based on our thoughts and beliefs. And so when you say that, you're this bundle of energy, and that life is an adventure for you, I mean, that's something that I just see time and time and time again, just the way you show up, and sort of, how you have your toes dipped in so many different projects and so many different things, all at the same time. And you, you tend to do it all with such grace and a smile, and just this, lovely demeanor, and you show
Hmm.
up in this beautiful, delightful, amazing, sparkly way. And so one of the things that I would like to talk to, that this bundle of energy that you are, is focusing on and putting a lot of attention on these days, is welcome home. And
Hmm.
maybe we can get into the history a little later, but I would love for our listeners and our viewers to learn about what welcome home is, because it is just such an incredible venture. It is something that is new. There isn't really much like it out there, and it is a whole new way to experience, and embody, I guess, spirituality, that the energy that we all are. So instead of me sort of talking about it, I would love for you to just launch us into the world of welcome home, and tell us what it's all about, what it means to you, how you got involved, who you're involved with, and just, tell the world what it's about to experience through this incredible venture.
Well, first of all, thank you for that beautiful introduction and those beautiful words of describing your experience of me. And thank you for that. Um, so, two things about Welcome Home. There is Welcome Home Toronto, the church, which is the New Thought Church, and that is evolving, and more evolvement to follow. What I want to talk about is Welcome Home Spirit Breath meditation that is about to launch this month online. It is with my incredible partners. I mean, Dr. James Mellon and Eric Overholtzer are the founding members. And then about a year and a half ago, they brought this idea to me and said, "Whoa, we want to take the understanding of our oneness, the philosophy of new thought, and present it through the experience." So versus, when we go to church or center, and I'm talking, and these days I'm talking to people online, which is
Mhm.
certainly not as fulfilling as having a live audience, but it's still creating some sort of community. This is about actually moving people from their heads into their heart and their body, and having an experience of their own capacity to know themselves in a deep, intimate, personal way, to know themselves as this infinite creative energy that they are, and to come to understand that they have the power within them to direct that energy into whatever they choose to create in their lives. And one of the wonderful things about meditation, and certainly with all the scientific research that is being done on meditation and how it decreases our stress levels, it allows us to access our executive functioning, our creative ability, our ability to be more open and curious, and to be more heart-centered, is that is giving what we're doing the scientific chutzpah to say, yes, this works. I know chutzpah was maybe not the best choice of words there, but it gives us the backbone to say we need to come into ourselves, and certainly Welcome Home and in the Spirit Breath meditation, it is by using what Dr. James Mellon created, a 3-step breathing technique that is breathing into the belly through the mouth, into the chest through the mouth, and exhaling through the mouth. And this circular breathing allows us to move from our old conditioned minds, our patterned brain, our fight, flight, freeze, survival brain, and disrupt it a little bit and open up into, oh, wait a minute, I am more than what I've learned in the past, that there are possibilities for me. And so not only are we moving into a different part of our brain where there is more executive functioning, impulse control, emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, but we're also giving ourselves a physical, somatic experience that we are energy. And I love that. And it's non-secular. This is not about, any particular belief system. You can have any belief system you want. You can be attached to or be part of any particular religion you want. It is about you. And it's like really opening the gateway to your heart so that you walk through your heart space and start to have an intimate conversation with your heart.
So that, I mean, I have some experience with Welcome Home. I have attended many spirit breath meditations, I guess over the last year, because I remember for me specifically around, let's see, I think all the sort of COVID lockdown stuff started to happen around March,
Mm-hmm.
and things got really intense for me at work. And by May, it was just an unworkable situation for me. And I just really thought about, what do I want to put my attention on? Do I want to put my attention on really figuring out how to be in this environment that it just, there's so much anxiety, there's so much fear, there's so much worry, there's so much opinion, there's just there was all this seeming negative stuff that was just there brewing with people coming in, with the staff, um, and me just navigating that, where at the beginning I'm like, I'm bigger than this, I'm more powerful than this, I'm more resilient than this, but found myself, after a few weeks, completely pulled into the collective consciousness of just fear and worry and anxiety and stuff. And just sort of realized, I don't want to spend my attention and energy on this. I want to spend my energy on that which is life affirming, that which is supportive, that which is expansive, that which is nourishing. And in order to do that, I need to leave my job. And so then it was just, now I need to be able to still not get sucked into that, collective consciousness. And
Mm-hmm.
so I all of a sudden like upped my meditations, upped my prayer sessions, the amount of spiritual mind treatment that I was doing. And one of the things that I jumped into was spirit breath meditation. And it was something that Dr. James, and I guess, well, the three of you just very graciously opened up for free, to the public, Dr. James through Global Truth Center Los Angeles, and then you through Welcome Home Toronto. And to be able to attend a spirit breath meditation for half an hour ish, and then there was some conversation and connecting, after that, just with the community. What a gift that was, to just, be able to go there, just be grounded, be in community with all of these other people who were coming in with whatever it was that they had going on, whatever it was that they were feeling, and to just, be immersed in this experience of feeling spirit, of feeling energy, of feeling this power that we're talking about constantly, that this is who and what we are, but to really feeling it in our body, in our bones, feeling our cells activated and animated by this incredible circular 3-step breath. And then, the evolution of over the last year, where it was a silent, thing, to there was a little bit of music added in, and now music is a huge component of spirit breath. to sort of amplify this experience that everyone is having, to really connect and really drop in and really just be so. I have goosebumps right now as I'm talking, of having this bodily
Yeah.
experience in the moment is just, it's so profound. And it's one of the things that I know for me really helped to shift me into another direction, another perspective, and be able to not get as caught up anymore in all of the, you know, stuff that was just whirling and swirling around me. So that
Right.
was amazing, and it's still going on. You guys are still offering this, right?
We are. And, I want to touch on something you said, Lasia, around the breath, because what happens to us is when we get so caught up in what's going on in the world, and oh my goodness, it's confusing, it's changing all the time. There's so much information, and people are isolated as well. When people can get into a fear state, and what happens is we stop breathing. Our breathing becomes so shallow, and that is one of the worst things we can do for ourselves, is not breathe fully and oxygenate our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to get into that experience of moving breath through the body and feeling what that feels like is not only um, stabilizing for people, we can also create a safety in that, of us being
Mm-hmm.
grounded in the present, where we are right here, right now. And of course, oxygenating our bodies, expanding our lungs is vitally important right now. And it always is. But the other thing you mentioned about the experience with the music, and we brought the music back in, when before the lockdown, we were running spirit breath classes from the fall of 2019 to, I guess, about March of 2020. I'm trying to make sure I have my dates right there. And it was an immersive experience into not only the space and the atmosphere, the lighting, the images we had on the screen, which were mostly of beautiful nature scenes, because all of that calms us down. And then we
Mm-hmm.
had the music and the experience of the meditation. So it was always meant to be an immersive experience. And so it's,
Mm-hmm.
how do we create that online? And of course, now with technology, Spotify, and everything, we can create a little bit more of that, which is great. And once we have actual physical centers again, it will be that experience of, oh, I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm home, and I can relax. I can open up my heart. I can go within. I can feel that safety, the security, the sense of belonging to myself, but also belonging in community, which, I'll speak for myself. I'm a little bit starved for that in the in-person, touchy-feely,
Mm-hmm.
exchanging of energy way. And allow people to really get to know themselves in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I love the I don't talk about safety often because I guess for me, I sort of feel like if you really are grounded in who and what you are, if you really believe there's nothing, there safety is moot, it just because there's nothing that is threatening, there's nothing that could ever diminish, that allness of being that you are. However, in the relative world of things going
Mm-hmm.
on and experiences being felt, um, then having something that just that image, that phrase that comes to mind as you were speaking of, feeling the safety, like actually feeling, embodying the
Mm-hmm.
safety in the grounding of the breath, that is a very powerful statement. And that is a very profound opportunity for people to have, you know, where there's a lot of this thinking of, I mean, even right now, and we don't need to get into, you know, sort of a huge discussion about this, but a lot of people getting vaccines are getting the vaccine, a vaccine for COVID, because they feel that that's going to make them safe. That, you know, once enough people get vaccinated, then things can go back to normal because the vaccine is saving us. The vaccine is, you know, the answer to life getting back to normal. And here's something that, you know, is, it's not going to get something or going to someone else or something outside of ourselves. Being able to breathe in a certain way, being able to connect with yourself through this breath that is so grounding, and sort of, you know, this idea that there is safety in the grounding of that breath. That is a beautiful, beautiful, profound, super important, and holy moly, like life affirming concept. You know, that if you just tune into your breath and allow the breath of life, to open you up, to, you know, I mean, oxygenate, you know, if you sort of want to like go more scientific, you know, the oxygenation that happens, you know, in the lower lobes of the lungs, things that get activated in the brain, the oxygen traveling, you know, to different parts of the body, the balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide levels, and, you know, that. But the feeling that you get, the feeling that you get of this calm, of this relaxation, of this safety that you're talking about, it's extraordinary. And so, like, congratulations that this is something that you guys are bringing into the world, because from what little I have experienced, it really is such an incredible gift, and it is so empowering. I think, you know, a lot of people comment on the people who facilitate about, oh, what a wonderful facilitator you are, and how, you know, how great, thank you so much. But I think a lot of times people don't realize that it's through that incredible facilitation that they're the ones breathing, you know, like the people who are participating, they're the ones who are doing the breathing. They're the ones that are allowing themselves to drop in and really, you know, yes, there's a facilitator, yes, there's some music, yes, there's this immersive experience that you are providing, you know, that is unfolding before them. But ultimately, like, it's the individual who is the one who's breathing and having this experience. And that's so powerful. That's so special. That's so extraordinary. That's amazing.
It is. And I think also, for people who start out in spirit breath, sometimes they're like, I can't breathe that way. I can't breathe that way. I get dizzy. And it's like, yes, you get dizzy because it's shaking up all of those neural pathways and it's opening you up to something new. It's like anything that we do that is going to give us a more expansive experience. There's always a little bit of uncomfortableness first. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's shattering whatever you're comfortable with, right? It's like,
Yes.
in order to grow, you got to like bust
Yes.
out and psh, you know. Yeah.
For sure. So, and would you agree with that, Glenn?
Yeah. I I I'm just trying to think of parallels here, how to explain to people. I can only use my own experience. I mean, I've only done spirit breath once because I'm usually at work when the
Mm,
daytime things are happening. But yeah, it shook me up a little bit, just to finding a new way of like doing things with my body that allowed for something different. And there's like a barrier to break through to get to that new experience, you know. It's similar to like very different, but like similar to the Wim Hof breathing um,
mm,
methods, where first time I tried that, I thought, what is it? You know, I lay down and just did the relaxed sort of easy version. And, you know, I ended up doing a series of breaths. And again, for him, it doesn't matter whether it's through the mouth or the nose, which is very alien to me because I'm usually
mhm.
breathing through my nose. But he, you know, the breakthrough for the body there is that you end up getting like tingly feelings in your extremities, and it's a little bit panic inducing, but what it's doing is actually relaxing the body to the point where you breathe out. You do your series of in and out, and then you breathe out, and you hold the breath like out of your body.
Mhm.
And I did it for like, I did a timer thing, and it was like 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I had breathed out because my body was fully oxygenated, and it was like everything's fine. I had no desire to breathe in again. It was very strange. And similarly, when I think it was Dr. James doing the spirit breath, he's doing this, this thing, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I'm just lying, trying to understand. But gradually, I just, okay, I'll stop the brain into trying to micromanage, and the ego saying, okay, you know how to breathe. I just, okay, I'll do what he's saying, and I'll just break through. And it was it was both alarming and then relaxing. And it's a bit like when you have a cold, back to the Wim Hof thing, when you have a cold shower or you end your shower with cold water, your breathing becomes extremely rapid, and you're just doing what your body's doing what it has to do in order to rebalance things, I guess. So the benefit, as I understand it from mostly from Lass's experience and what I've read and listened to, is that you're opening, I guess you're opening up from a different perspective or different angle, your body and your mind and your heart to it's like I don't know, like climbing up a huge ladder and just sliding down and just like enjoying the ride kind of thing. Like you
I
have to do the
love that.
work and then like water slide down or whatever. But yeah, I mean, and again, I guess because you're coming from a different angle of, you've got, like your heart math stuff, and you're obviously very well versed in helping people deal with their own particular version of, I'm not sure if I can do that, or their barriers and their limitations. And you've obviously got this very effective way of just being yourself that helps people get to a deeper level of who they are through things like this, right? So
Oh, thank you. Yes, and I think, it's again, as we move into spirit breath in the meditations, I mean, we have 5 minutes of uninterrupted spirit breathing, and it, it it will, as people become more comfortable with it, it becomes this wonderful opening into relaxation in a very different way than if we just sat and breathed like we normally breathe. Because it like you said with the other technique, it's releasing all that constrictive energy in our bodies that we live with, and it becomes so normalized in us. I know I can go into a spirit breath and I go, wow, I was holding on to a lot in my body and I wasn't aware of it. So to be able to have that experience of expansion versus constriction.
right, yeah.
And when we expand, we can be open, we can grow, we can hear our own voice, our own small, distant voice within, for some people, of that intuitive knowing, and start to pay attention to it and perhaps take action from that intuitive, wise place within us. And give ourselves a more expansive experience in life versus shrinking away, because life is changing faster and faster and faster than it ever has, and it's going to continue to do so. So the ability to kind of go with the flow instead of fighting so much. And I think there's so much fighting and pushing against the flow of life instead of, I can be in flow and then make really healthy, loving, beneficial, conscious choices from a place of responsiveness, from that place of what I'm going to call spiritual intelligence. It's not just about having emotional intelligence these days. It's about having spiritual intelligence of being able to respond from a place of understanding, a place of groundedness, compassion, inclusivity, being able to really hear and have a broader perspective of many different perspectives in the world, and not being emotionally hijacked internally by them. So that's, one of the things I love about this work is, to be able to manage that, to step into it, embody it more often. Do I do it perfectly? No, not every day, but I have my moments because I'm on a journey, right? And it's all great learning and reassess and rejig things, and then go, all right, back in the flow, get back in the flow of life and the expansiveness of it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you're going to ask something else. So there's so many ways that I could go right now, because you just bring so much experience with Heart Math and Hoffman Institute, and your ministry, and now Welcome Home, to the table. How 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 and does it all come together? Because that I actually don't know very much about the Hoffman Institute. I know a little bit more about Heart Math. But how do you find yourself bringing, these different areas of your life, of your skills, and what you've, immersed yourself in, these different paths? Are they coming together? Do they sort of, overlap in the different areas of your life?
Mm-hmm. There's an interplay for sure. I think everything that I do has a basic foundation of heart first.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that that's one of my reasons for being here, is not only to continue to open my heart, but to be an example of that, and then pull from modalities, and certainly, that goes back to the ancient teachings as well, of it all starts from our heart. And I remember being in at a conference, and Dr. Badri Ricky was giving a conference on the heart being the first brain of the body. And he was introducing, and this was probably 15 years ago, was introducing some of the heart math techniques. But he is a wonderful physician, psychiatrist, and metaphysician.
Mm-hmm.
And everything I think about the heart, I think I've been led by my heart most of my life. I mean, I'm blessed to have parents who always said to me, do what you love to do what you're passionate about. And they certainly modeled that to me in their own careers. And that they were incredibly passionate about their careers. They were incredibly passionate about their life and all the things they were doing. So that it's funny, because my brother and I, even though we're very different personalities, but we both came to the realization that we really learned early on to follow our hearts and do what we love to do. And so I think that's always been a guiding light for me, or a signpost of, does this really, fill my heart with love and joy, adventure, and peace and grace and service. I think my life has been also very much about being of service. And certainly as a child, I was in service to rescuing every animal I could. My parents never knew what was going to show up in the house. And that was okay. But, then it became just like, yeah, I love to serve. So all of these modalities that I have the honor of being involved with are all around opening up to the wellspring of love. That is within us, but it's all around us as well. You know, it's again, it's that beautiful energy that we can we can embody and live from and just enjoy as well, right? Really enjoy our lives, which, you know, I if I look back, I don't think I have any regrets in terms of, you know, what I feel I didn't do. I mean, part of it is I'm a little bit impulsive. I do have good emotional impulse, but I'm impulsive when it comes to adventure.
Yeah.
So I remember when I told my husband, um, "Oh, by the way, honey, I'm going to South Africa for 3 weeks." I'm leaving in May. I think this was in April. I booked my trip, and I was going to be there to support this dear friend of mine who had ridden the Tour d'Afrique from Cairo to Cape Town on his bicycle over
Wow.
6 months. Yes, and he was raising funds for a school in the Eastern Cape
Okay.
of South Africa, and I had sponsored a child there, and I just said, "Who's going to be there for you?" And he said, "Well, no, nobody really." And his partner couldn't be there, and people from the school he worked with couldn't be there because they were all teachers and in school. I said, "Okay, I'm going. I'm going to go and be there at the finish line." And so I had to tell my husband, "I'm leaving for 3 weeks to South Africa." And he's like, "Okay, I know. It's in your blood." He was very good about it. But I think that's how I've always lived my life is this is an adventure and I get to be in contribution to serving. And so, all right, I'm in.
That's amazing and so different from my experience growing up. I really feel like for me, I'm just finding my heart, you know, like and it really has so much to do with the journey, the spiritual journey, the expansion and unfoldment, you know, that I'm on right now and where I am. And I just feel like a baby compared to so many of the people that I am surrounded with, you included, especially on Thursday nights when we're in this. Yep, I'm mentioning it again, folks. This advanced
Oh,
consciousness studies class we
yeah.
got, and and so this class for me, especially because we're focusing so much on quantum theory, quantum
Hmm.
physics, and the intermingling of spirituality with that, as that it's I love that stuff. I just I think all of us, this book that we're reading right now, The Quantum Revelation by Paul Levy, is, many people have said it's my favorite book. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read. I have, for me, for sure, one of my favorite books I have ever read, because it is really, it's making me think so much about what every single moment of my life is about and what I am doing, and how what he's talking about in that book is applicable in my day to day. The thing that still, even with this book, for me, I feel like I am just beginning to open up to is my heart. And so, you know, even being a mom, you know, to Milana, who is 16, almost 17 at this point.
Which I can't believe because I
Well,
remember, I
you
think when
have
she
a
was
daughter who's
5.
approaching 30 in a few years, right? Like that is also like, what? Um, but it's, you know, we have a cat, and I'm doing this because she, behind this is our bed, and she's curled up in her own little cave that she's created under a blanket. And I can think of Mercury. I can look at Mercury. She can be on my lap, sleeping or purring or looking up at my eyes, whatever. And that opens up my heart. Like it just, you know, and that feeling, you know, and that can happen because of Glenn. It can happen because of Milana, but it still feels like such a new feeling to me. And it was just so bizarre when, even when I was starting to take classes, the prerequisite classes for practitioner studies, I remember having a conversation with Reverend Jonathan one time when he came here for the Circle of Love. I guess in 2016, the year we moved here.
Hmm.
So just a
Hmm.
couple of months after we moved here. And I was talking to him about how I felt like my heart was this like lump of coal, this like frozen muscle. I'm like, I can cry. Like I feel things when I watch movies and when I talk to people, and, you know, like I can be very passionate, whatever. But this feeling of love, this, you know, ineffable quality and state of being and power and energy and essence that we'd be talking about in class, that people would be talking about during Sunday celebration, or you know, in other ways or whatever. It's like, I don't like what's like, it's broken, it's dead, you know. And it's like, I don't understand this. And so we had a really neat conversation, and he talked about, you know, like moving from the head and down into the heart, and how even he, you know, at the beginning was very, very stuck in his head, and at some point he did drop into his heart, and what a different, you know, kind of experience and feeling that was. And so for me, I feel like it's just, you know, mine is just, it's blossoming, it's opening, it's
Mm,
coming, it's waking up again. And it just that, you know, almost like a physical ache that happens when I just really feel, you know, love, or in love, or just, I don't even know how to describe it, but that's something that I feel so oh, what am I trying to say? It's like, I know that's the evidence for me. Like when I feel that, like that's the evidence of me opening up, of me like dropping further down into my heart, that it is softening, that I am softening, and that I'm opening up myself to more of me. I
yes.
guess, you
Yeah.
know. So it's and that really, it's just, it's only been a few years, you know. And it's a process right now, you know, even though in class it's like everything is happening right now simultaneously, all those waves of possibility collapsing into infinite realities right now.
Hmm.
So my thing is to continue to focus on the waves of possibility, where, you know, it's my most fulfilled, engaging, you know, present, aware, expansive life experience. That's what's happening. And it's practice, and it's a process, and it's work, and it's attention, and it's focus, and it's working, because it's like,
Yes.
it's changing, I'm changing, my life experience is changing, and it's so exciting, you know, all at the same time too. So yeah.
And I would say, my first of all, my experience of you is that you are just such, you know, I mean, you're just so delightful and open and present and bubbling with that energy of love. But you know, I think we're all on that journey of
Mhm.
opening to more love. Um, and you know, we come into this world and we're we're not taught, we're not even modeled sometimes what unconditional love is. So we do take on consciously and unconsciously all kinds of ideas that, you know, love equals money, love equals affection, love equals gifts, love equals, you know, for some people love equals abuse, which is really sad. But
Mhm.
it's what they know, it's what we've all learned,
Yeah.
different ideas and constructs about what love is. So I think all of us are on this journey of releasing those constructs, which I see are constructs or beliefs, which I see as melting ice
Mm.
around our hearts,
Mhm.
gently, lovingly, compassionately, and holding ourselves able, you know, to always hold ourselves able to experience more love.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter where we are on the journey. What matters is that we are on the journey and that we're doing that lovingly, gently, with kindness and generosity, not you know, making ourselves wrong and comparing. And I mean, it's easy to get into comparing. I mean, we can all do that. We can all get caught up in, you know, the ways we've been hurt or felt betrayed or um, unjustly treated. But when it comes right down to it, and I mean, this is what we're experiencing and learning in class, when it comes down to it in the quantum field, we all came from this one heart. I'm starting to think of the Big Bang as a big heart. that went bang, and we're all parts of that one heart, that one cosmic heart. And so now it's reclaiming it for ourselves. And there's so many great avenues to do that, which is, I think, one of the wonderful things about the world we live in terms of technology, how we're exposed to so many avenues that people can take to discover that. I have one client who is just, oh, he's just so delightful, and he's burst his heart wide open on so many levels through this one meditation app. It's not mine, but it's okay. I'll let that go. I don't care how you get there. He's just like he's just opening up in such miraculous, beautiful ways. And I'm like, great, great. Take more of it in, and let's see where the journey takes us. But at least be on the journey.
Yeah, that, you know what, that is such a great quote. It doesn't matter where we are on the journey. It matters that we are on the journey. I think that's fantastic.
Wow. I don't even know if that's my quote or I'm quoting somebody else. I'll have to look it up to see if I have a feeling I might have heard it somewhere,
Yeah.
but I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. It's like, just be on the journey. It's
Yeah.
okay. And when the journey is a circuitous route. It's not this it's not this straight line.
Yeah.
It takes us in many different directions, and okay. Well, that can be an adventure.
An adventure, which Reverend Helen loves. That's what life's all about.
I'm in for the adventure. I know.
So, Honey Bunch, do you want to chime in with anything here? Anything popping up for you?
Well, okay. I'm trying to. It was a couple of minutes ago when I was thinking, oh, that's the thing I want to clarify, but now it's slipped away a bit. When we spoke to Reverend Jonathan, I listened to it again recently because we only recently published it. We were backlogged a bit, and last year I did the editing, and so I was just listening to it again, and I guess I was hashing out my own limitations with the conversation with him about the motto or the vision or mission that he continues to use, that GTC uses, that Dr. James came up with, love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. And I was saying that for me, the love only part was a challenge in that maybe it's semantics, but like the word I was going for was, my word is trust. I'm much more comfortable saying trust only, I guess. Like, be open to the idea of all is well, even if the circumstances are very chaotic or uncertain, or you just don't know how they're, like, why it's coming up or how it's coming up is very jarring for you. And again, this could go back to, as you said, with the breathing exercise helps you with that balance when the sympathetic nervous system's gone fight, flight, and the parasympathetic nervous system is like, no, we can calm this down. Everything's fine through the breathing. But I forget what he said in response to it now, but it was essentially the love only thing. I get it. And I'm more and more each day open to that being the correct way of proceeding. Like, it's like an operational choice I have to make. Like, you still have to get up and interact with people and dealing with your own feelings and your own manifestations of your own kind of limits that you're pushing each day, and you're allowing more to come in. You are challenging yourself, and sometimes you'll dip into a low, and other times you're just sailing into the stratosphere. But yeah, because again, we're back to the issue of you coaching and teaching and mentoring and guiding people in a new direction sometimes, where you're helping them nudge stuff out of the way that may get lodged in their bodies, that may be just in their minds or their thought. You know, I look at this idea of thought that we have, that coalesces into our beliefs. It's like little packets of thought that we are just very comfortable grabbing to go. You know, that's my habit. That's my, you know, I know how this is how things work, right?
Yeah.
But breaking it down into, with this Paul Levy book especially, it's like anything's possible here. Just what is it that you really want? What do you think you are? What is available to you? What is your desire? Knowing that that will lead to, as you said, service is important. Um, Adventure is important. You know, new horizons. So, how do I get this into a question? Um, is that something you've noticed when you're dealing with people, that, or does that come up for you even, like that love isn't always the best word to get to kind of dig into that and just say like, um, there's something there's something that is at stake here. You know, you have to give a lot. You have to allow things to open so that everything is well. You know, you have to, so that you can notice that that's just how life really works, separate from the appearances and the conditions and the form. It's all just love, consciousness, God, all that is just love. But is there something else that is a good way to suggest to people that, you know, there's that all is ultimately unfolding perfectly? I don't like the word perfectly, but all is well.
Yeah. Oh, I think you just bring up such a great question, because yes, we use the vision statement, love only, forgive everything, remember who you are. So what does that mean? Love only. Love, the way I see it is, first of all, we all have conditioned patterns and ways of being that we might be very unconscious of, or conscious of, but still, repeating them because they're emotionally familiar. It's all we know. I don't have to love somebody's patterns.
Right.
I don't have to agree with someone's destructive behavior and go, oh, love only. No. What I can do is recognize, and I'm going to quote a brief poem by Arthur Miller, I believe. And that is, have compassion for everyone you meet, even if they don't want it. For what seems like conceit, arrogance, and ill manners are signs of things no eyes have seen, no ears have heard. We do not know what wars are going on down where spirit meets the bone. So I don't know. I don't know for anybody.
Yeah.
But I can have compassion, which doesn't mean I'm in sympathy. I am not getting stuck or mired or buying into their destructive patterns of behavior. But I can also see beyond to know that within them is a part of them that has never been touched by any pain, that is much greater than what they might even be aware of, much greater than their destructive patterns of behavior, their ill manners, their conceit, their arrogance. And I can make healthy, loving choices in response to that, that has an underlying intention of raising up both of us versus creating separation. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm good, you're bad. So from that place, yes, love only is going and seeing beyond their patterns to their more than that. But it's also, we talk about love as the self-givingness of spirit unto ourself, to love ourselves and to be filled up with that love, overflowing with it, that I can give what I can give, not at the expense of myself. I'm not putting myself in an abusive situation. That would be crazy. I'm not going to take somebody else's destructive behavior and go, that's okay, because I really do love you. It's like, no, love is also saying, hey, you know what? You may want to look at this. You may want to clean it up. You may want to do something about it because you're more than that. Yeah. You are more than your patterns. And that's where some people find me very confronting, because I'm not going to buy into their patterns. And that I'm okay with that. But I can still love who they are inherently. And so that's the love only. And then forgive everything is taking full responsibility for my life and what I have participated in, right? Have I been a jerk sometimes? Have I hurt people sometimes? Have I not been the most conscious, loving being I can be? Absolutely. And I got to be willing to own my stuff there. And so to forgive myself and to be able to forgive others, which I see as forgiving myself new life, really not being defined by history. I'm not a victim to the history anymore. I am this empowered being because I am remembering I'm more than that. And so remembering that I'm more than that is remembering that I am this infinite creative presence of love, of beauty, of wholeness, of justice, of kindness and goodness. And then I am fully responsible on how I show up and what I give. That's not on anybody else. That's all about me. And I think that's sometimes where people have a hard time. It's like, no, I didn't cause an accident, but I have choice in how I respond to it. Or I didn't cause myself intentionally to be, in harm's way here. At least I hope not. I don't think I'm that self-vindictive. I hope I'm aware enough to not do that. I know I'm aware enough not to do that. But if that shows up in my life, I have choice in how I respond. And that's where going, understanding in the quantum field, and this is what Paul Levy's talking about, is that there is this huge universal quantum entanglement. We're all connected. So if I do react maliciously or unconsciously, I'm not just hurting myself, and I'm not just hurting that person. I'm hurting my family. I'm hurting my community. And I want to be awake enough to recognize that and take responsibility for it. And also clean it up if I need to clean it up. And yeah, sometimes I have things to clean up in my life too.
Yeah, thank you. That's really very beautifully spread out as those three concepts being one, really. But as you mentioned that, and that you, or sometimes you get reactions from people that's not what they're ready for, or that's not what they want. It reminds me of the issue of, like, there's sort of a pattern emerging in the last couple of decades where, especially as younger people have been less and less likely to have kind of any spiritual support, or the patterns sort of had fallen away for a while in terms of church and whatever. And maybe the most spiritual thing a person was going to experience during their week would be going to yoga or something, which is fine for the body and balancing the mind body. But what I notice, again, maybe because of what I'm putting out there, and that's the way it's coming back to me to be questioned, is the victim component. Like you mentioned, justice, right? The idea that there's a lot of there are younger people who are very adamant that like this must happen now because this group of people is being victimized. So they're sort of in this consciousness of there's a victim, there's a perpetrator, and that is a very enticing and powerful narrative to get to basically give your attention to, that this is a wrong that must be righted and whatever. And you get it in race, you get it in gender politics, you get it just in politics in general, and the victim component of that really, I don't know what to do with it still. I'm working on it in terms of just seeing the opposite of that, just seeing that people are becoming more and more aware that we are not victims,
Mm-hmm.
But and this is where I think New Thought churches, especially in New Thought centers and groups of people who get together just reading a book makes a difference, that becomes more and more accepted, that we can't be both victim and, creative spirit, divine, the God, whatever it is. We can't be both of those things. We can play the part of victim. We can play the part of a person aware of a victim, but ultimately it's very self-denying, and it doesn't open you up at all. It keeps you locked into this very tight little box of possibilities. And I just think, in your position, I think you maybe have come across this.
Oh, for sure. And, it's also understanding we have centuries of imprinting, culturally, historically, familially, of being a victim or being victimized. This is not something new. It's just all coming out, and which is a good thing. And yes, maybe being expressed more by people recognizing who's been victimized, who hasn't, or feeling like a victim themselves. But here's the thing. We've got all that imprinting. It's kind of the same thing as what's happening with quantum physics. Quantum physics is now uncovering and discovering that we are the entire universe and the universe is us. There's nothing separate, but we have like centuries of Newtonian physics of everything starts in form, right? Yeah. Everything is about form. Everything is about what shows up in our life, and that is the causative factor of our pain. Whereas quantum physics is scientifically proving that we're all consciousness, and that there is no out there and me here. It's all one. So what this is going to do, there's going to be a shakeup that goes on. And I love it. I'm like, yes, there's going to be a shakeup in terms of our understanding that it's my consciousness. Nobody's doing anything to me. It's my consciousness. Yeah. But we're not there yet. And there's all these iterations of expression. And, I think of the Cartman Triangle, which is a triangle that talks about victim, the perpetrator, and the bystander, or the fixer, the one who wants to fix it. And we move in that triangle. And right now, there's a lot of people that are either in the victim or the people that want to fix it. And it's like we have to remember that we're all three, and so much more than that. And that right now, this cycle that's coming up, that's okay. That's okay. It's going to change. And again, that's where I do my own work of cleaning up my own consciousness around victim, me being a victim. And, it's like, oh, I can catch myself. I'm a little bit whiny. And it's like, no, clean it up, clean it up. And that's what I'm responsible for.
Yep.
And everything that is, I'm going to say, erupting in our world today, well, the light pushes up the darkness to be exposed, to be transformed. And we have to see it first, though, right? And that's what's happening. We're being confronted with so much that has happened for centuries, that has been so much of our imprinting, of our consciousness. And now it's like, oh my gosh, let's bring it up into the light. Let's look at it. How is it affecting me? And what am I doing? Am I really cleaning up my own consciousness so that I can be an example and show up for someone else and say, you know what? You have the power to rise above all of this. And not even rise above, because I think you have to go through it. You have to go through it and come out on the other side, which means sometimes we sit in the muck and it stinks. That muck stinks. It's also uncomfortable. Sometimes it's painful. And that's okay too. But all those rescuers that want to come in and take people out of the muck, it's like, no, no, no. See that they have the power within them to move through it and come out on the other side. There's nothing I have to fix except just keep working on my own consciousness.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to ask a question, because there are two things that came to mind over the last 15 minutes or so. One was my absolute favorite spiritual principle is not bound by precedent, which is something that we began to touch on in a group that we were in a few months ago in class. And there was something that you and some of the other people in the group were saying about that not necessarily being something that either resonates or that is 100% true. And then the other part that I was thinking about, which is the idea of love and consciousness, and how they are used interchangeably sometimes. And for me, what I find is, especially as we delve further into quantum physics, and we're talking consciousness and energy and the quantum field, when people are talking about love as the allness of being, as that is all there is, as the love only, not just, a verb, an activity, but like state of being, this is who and what you are. What comes to mind for me is this just something that we as our human selves, the human experience, is this something we ascribe to consciousness, to energy, so that we can relate to it better? Because consciousness and energy is like pick up a hand of consciousness, pick up a hand of energy, feel it, that kind of thing. But love has some kind of meaning for almost everyone, I would think, some kind of connotation, some kind of experience. And so can you talk to us about that? Because I am so like, I get this and I get this, and I flip flop back and forth between using words like universe, energy, consciousness, quantum field, possibility, and then get more what for me feels like more mystical in terms of love and beauty and maybe that route, even though in my mind they're all the same thing. So do you have any thoughts on that sort of love versus consciousness? Is there any verses
Well,
for you?
I think it's I think it is the words we use to describe it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But I think there's also the feeling aspect of it, that intuitive, deep feeling of, oh, just when I think of it, it's just it's a feeling that almost is indescribable, and yet we do, as human beings, ascribe language. Jonathan would love that I say this. He would just love it. But yeah, we do, and how to describe that feeling, and maybe we don't need to describe it. And I think also, if we look at it from a quantum physics perspective, we talk about consciousness, we talk about the quantum realm. But Amit Goswami talks so much about the quantum archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Love, kindness, goodness, truth, justice, wholeness. Did I miss any?
I think
Beauty,
beauty was in there
beauty,
too. Yeah.
beauty,
Which I
beauty.
don't think is in your bio.
No, and I should put it in because it's such a big part of my life.
Yeah.
So, um, because I love to create,
Mm-hmm.
from that aspect of creating an atmosphere, that I find beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Although some people do say, "Oh," they used to say to to me about the center. It's like, "Oh, you Hellenized the center," right?
What?
No, no, it's good. They meant it in
Okay.
a compliment because they
Okay.
know how particular I am about creating places of beauty. What I, just, oh, yeah, it gives a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, um, I think if we think of those quantum archetypes
Yeah.
and what are we most drawn to, and it really is finding a balance between all of those archetypes. Like, I didn't really think so much about wholeness. Like, wholeness, I'm whole. Like, what does wholeness mean? What really does that mean as a quantum archetype? Is it seeing the wholeness and recognizing the wholeness and embodying the wholeness of the universe as me? Is it the wholeness of my mind, body, emotions, intuitive self that makes up my consciousness? Like, there's so many avenues you can go down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's what we just tend to lean into
Mm-hmm.
most. And for me, I tend to lean into love. I tend to lean into beauty. Um, I tend to lean into kindness because I think that's really in intertwined with my sense of service. But yeah, there are some other things I'm like, oh, okay, I could open up my mind and be more curious about that, and what does that mean for me, and what could I maybe lean into more there.
Yeah.
So I think it's whatever feels most comfortable to the individual,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where again, it's like, well, it's consciousness. Well, maybe for somebody it is that feeling of beauty and expansiveness or creation or creativity, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that I don't know, do we have to define it so clearly? I mean, for me, love is a feeling, and I think of it as that where it touches into just such a an emotional goodness, and an emotional tenderness. So I know when I'm in that feeling, it's like, okay, I'm in love. But
It's so sorry, Honey Bunch, because it just as Reverend Helen was talking, it really made me think how much beauty is just that has been an underlying theme in my entire life, whether it
mm,
was
oh,
beauty and artistry specifically. And for the longest time until very recently, I sort of equated creativity with artistry, but really creativity, it's just happening all the time in every way.
yes,
But the beauty of artistry, whether it is a painting, whether it is music, whether it is like the beauty of nature, it just the feeling, um, whatever sort of gets evoked, if that's for me right now, I just kind of didn't realize this until you were talking, that that is more profound and resonates with me more than love does. That beauty is for me just so more meaningful, so further reaching, like wow. And all of these archetypes are, interwoven, interconnected, like Indra's net, like with each other, and are all sort of part and parcel of each other, because ultimately, I guess the one that you sort of, said that you didn't think about that much until maybe recently, wholeness, like they're all part of, the greater whole, all creating the greater whole, every moment of every day kind of thing. So that was very interesting for me to sort of like tune into that right now. Thank you.
That makes sense. Look at what you used to create at your bakery and how beautiful, how absolutely beautiful every item was. I mean, that's why we went to your bakery, aside from the fact that my daughter's vegan. And you will be happy to know we have got now the best, I'm going to say the best, because we think it's the best,
Yeah.
gluten-free vegan chocolate cupcake recipe. And we did the vegan icing, and it is Mahala who is the one who is exquisite at piping. Mine were like
Ooh.
all over the place, not my thing. But they were beautiful, and that's, you know,
Aw.
she was so happy. Like that's the expression of her consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's really sweet.
yeah. I'll send you pictures of what she did.
Yeah. I'd love to see them. Um, okay, so that there was that honey bunch. Did you want to add
Was
anything before I ask about the principal?
well, you're gonna. I was gonna remind you, but the beauty thing, the Oscar Wilde quote. I have to read it because it's a bit long. Oscar Wilde says, "Beauty is the only thing that time cannot harm. Philosophies fall away like sand. Creeds follow one another. But what is beautiful is a joy for all seasons, a possession for all eternity."
Oh,
Mm, beautiful. There you go.
Yeah.
So you got it, Lasia.
mm,
Lasia. You got it.
thank
Now the tough
you.
question. After the beauty comes the truth.
Well, maybe no. Can we handle the truth? Okay, so principle is not bound by precedent. This continues to be the principle or sort of spiritual realization for me that is the most profound
Mhm.
right now in this moment, that has sort of come across my purview. And I'm going to sort of qualify this by saying that in this book that we're reading by Paul Levy, there is a chapter in there where he talks about there are no constant spiritual laws, or any kind of laws. The only thing that is constant is that they're always changing. And when I read that, I was kind of like, okay, hold on. Because a lot of what we talk about in our philosophy is stems from there are these inarguable, 100% true all the time spiritual truths or principles, and laws that are always in play regardless of whether or not you're aware of them. So become aware, and then your life will change for the better, sort of thing. So there's that whole thing that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around. But now as it gets sunny, principle is not bound by precedent. For me, when I first heard this years ago in the very first class that I took with Reverend Jonathan, then he kind of gave it in two parts. One was that nothing that has ever happened has any bearing on who you are in this moment right now. Like, what? That's incredible. You mean I don't have to like hold on to these things that happened before? Now there's this whole other notion of happening, it happened then, has impact on me right now. And, time doesn't exist, but it's all like, okay. But let's just go sort of the very linear relative way of something happened. it doesn't have any bearing on who and what I am right now. And then in the second class, he explained, unless you drag it into the present moment with you. But even then, it's not the thing that is changing. Or sorry, you are always the same. You are always that. You are always the principle. You are always the truth. You are always love. You are always more creative, resilient, powerful than anything that could have ever happened to you or anything that could have ever happened. So this is something that to this day, it's something that I absolutely, for lack of a better word, love and just find so profound and such an incredible lesson and realization, and something that I often share with clients. What are your thoughts with all of your background? And even now, as we're, knee deep, ankle deep, neck deep in quantum theory, what are your thoughts on that principle?
Well, first of all, I think when somebody comes to the realization that they are not bound by precedent,
Yeah.
that they have an opportunity to come into knowing themselves in a very different way, I think that does two things. One, and I think these two things are very important and go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It raises our self-esteem as well as our capacity to know ourselves as that infinite, creative, intelligent energy, spiritual self, intuitive self, wise self, authentic self, whatever anybody wants to call it. And I'm not attached to those names. So I think it gives us both of those. And it allows us to open up our minds to we are more than our history. One of the difficulties that I have seen over and over again is that people then go, great, none of what I did in the past matters, and I'm good to go.
Okay. All right.
And then they start doing the work, and they're doing their prayer work and their meditation and their visioning, and they're making changes in their life, and then they get slapped upside the head with all of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is for the same reason I was talking about the whole victim thing, and we have centuries of that imprinting. Historically, we have all of our familial imprinting from generation to generation that still lives within us energetically and not consciously. Nobody wants to carry all that crap with them day by day, but we still unconsciously carry it with us. And it has a tremendous amount of power to come up and, I'm going to say, bite us in the ass when we're least aware.
Mm-hmm.
And hijack us and bring up all of that old stuff again. So the value of what I see as confronting it, doing that energetic, emotional release work, but not just that, also finding, again, emotionally and energetically, because we're all real good at cheap forgiveness. I know, I get it. Yeah, my parents, my family, they were screwed up, or they did the best they could, or, oh, they've changed now. That is just so in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
But to go back and really feel and understand on an emotional level what their pain was, what wars were going on down for them where spirit meets the bone, and to understand how that just was this unconscious contribution of survival, not thriving, survival. And to be able to find such deep peace and compassion and forgiveness on the emotional level. then we're really free to move forward. Now, is there stuff that still maybe shows up once in a while? Yeah, but it's not this thing that you're pushing against all the time. No, it no longer defines me. It no longer defines me. It's like, oh, I know this. Oh, it's coming up, so I can do some more work around it. And that's okay. So that's where I see, you're right, we're not bound by precedent. Bound, I think, is the operative word.
Yeah.
Bound.
Yeah.
But we have to I'm going to say unbound ourselves, unbind ourselves on that beautiful, rich, emotional level, not just intellectual. So that, again, we're feeling it and having the experience. We're right back where we started from, having the experience of compassion and forgiveness. Not just going, yeah, I know. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So to me, after hearing everything that you just said, that principle still stands true. It's just, what I think might happen for some people is what would be called a spiritual bypass, where you just sort of
Absolutely.
said, it's like, oh, okay, shut the door and that's it. I never have to think about that stuff or work through it or process it or whatever in any way, when really you're still dragging it into the present moment with you. You're still attached to it. You're still in relationship to it in a way that isn't liberating or expansive or affirming in any way. You're still bound because you're ignoring it and avoiding it. Whereas if you allow yourself the opportunity and the gift to actually, sink into the muck, like you were talking about earlier, and be uncomfortable and work through whatever it is that is bubbling up and needs to be trotted through and get all yucky and stinky in, then coming out on the other side is, the experiential realization that I'm not bound by that stuff, that even in working through and getting in the muck of all of that, I am so much infinitely more powerful, creative, and bigger than any of it. Here I am. And then you're in a healthy, more expansive, loving, an aware relationship with what happened with the precedent.
And we're freeing our ancestors.
Yeah.
We're freeing them. So this is what it means when we go back and change the past. In our own consciousness, we free them. We're no longer holding on to those little, resentments that kind of leak in here and there, or we're just so at peace with it. And I think that's the difference. The other thing is when we're not bound by precedent, we're not fighting against it, right? We're not trying to push it away. No, I'm pushing against. You can only push against something for so long. And that's why I have a hard time against something, as opposed to, oh, you know what? I am for embracing all of this and shifting and changing the energy into something that is going to raise me up to be more conscious, awake, aware, and giving to all of humanity. But when we're pushing against something, we can't do that. It becomes exhausting. It's a lot of energy to constantly push against something. No, I'm good. That's all in the past. It doesn't matter. As opposed to, wow, that really, that happened. And, you don't feel any kind of reactivity to it. And I think it's Michael Beckwith who came up with this, that forgiveness is giving up all hope of a different past with no reactivity to it. Right? And when we can come to that kind of peace, then God, we're free to create so much more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. I'm gonna have to listen to this a few more times. Yeah. No, I'm in harmony with what you're saying. Um, and for sure, when you said there about being against things, it runs counter to your nature. I mean, that's another one of my battles right now. Is this how to deal with language that's trying to be normalized, like the idea of um, being anti-racist. Um, I've read parts of the book that Robin DiAngelo wrote.
Mm.
To me, it's I get where it's coming from, but it's the wrong approach, right? And there, I won't get into the details, but you can look it up yourself. It's fairly, it's it's uh it's everywhere. This book, the
Yes,
ideas.
is this the white what it's white privilege or
Agility.
Yeah,
white fragility? Yes,
yeah.
I've read it.
So for me, it doesn't work in terms. It's a bit of a Kafka trap. It's a bit of like, if you believe this thing, um, the best you can do is go along with like accepting privilege and whatever. If you don't believe it, it's proof that you are racist, right? So to me, it's like, I get where they're coming from, but it's not helpful. And it's, to me, the idea of being anti-racist is the epitome of what you have to be. It's like saying, um, rather than racist, right?
Mhm.
Rather than non-racist,
Mhm.
being anti-racist is the goal. It's like saying, well, it's not enough to be non-violent. You have to be anti-violent. It's a word play that leads to this weird, like, what is going on over there?
Yeah.
The only thing that I am comfortable with in this kind of um, arena is that's mentioned in the Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff book, Coddling the American Mind, where they reference Nassim Taleb's books and concepts of human beings being anti-fragile, like that we are, and especially in relation to children, you know, we're not fragile, we are anti-fragile. We thrive in disorder and chaos. Like children, as they grow, they need boundaries, and they need things to overcome and break through and whatever, and they get better through the experience. Whereas bubble wrapping them, or you know preparing the road for the child, not the child for the road, is completely the wrong approach. If you want to have growth, you need to be able to experience difficulty, challenges, and accept that those are just normal um, steps along the path. So sorry, that's a bit of a tangent, but it's it's um, it's one of these things I discussed with Alasia too many times. Excuse me, but um, yeah, no, it's I really like that breaking down of the that one word can make such a difference. That bound word in that quote by Thomas Troward.
Mhm.
Did you
Mhm.
mention his name yet? I don't know. Anyway?
No, we didn't mention his
Not,
name.
no, yeah, that's right. Thomas
So,
Troward, not in this episode. Sorry. Thomas Troward, principle is not bound by precedent.
yeah. If you ever want to go to sleep, read any of his.
Oh, I love Thomas Troward. I love what he teaches. And you know what? It's so interesting because his creative process, the book, The Creative Process, is very much, if you changed every word in there from God to universe,
Mhm.
you would be in a quantum physics class.
Okay.
It's very cool. Yeah, he was, but it's so interesting that all of what this history, history has so much to teach us. And if we're willing to really look at the metaphysical meanings of things that were said, even in the Bible, I mean, there's all they're all stories, they're metaphysical stories. And if we're willing to look at it from that perspective, we can glean so much wisdom and meaning that is applicable to what we teach today. And and then couple that with, or combine that with, all the quantum physics that is being revealed. It's like, wow, we've just come full circle, folks. We're like right back at the very beginning of our oneness with all of life. And it's that place of coming into, I love what you said about, we're not fragile. We're not. We have an incredible capacity for resilience. We have an incredible capacity to deal with adversity. We're hardwired to deal with adversity. That is what our fight, flight, freeze, survival brain is all about, is dealing with adversity right back from, I gotta protect myself from a saber-toothed tiger. That's adversity. So we're good at that. It's now realizing that we can do it together. We can do it together in community. We can do it together. Oh, wholeness is going to come up. That we are all from this same stuff when it comes right down to it. Our bones, our cells, our skin, our atoms, our particles, they come right back to the same energy. And it's going to take time, maybe, for that to really become prevalent and understood and accepted by people who want to continue to create separation. And I think the one thing we can really look at as to say, am I in separation? Am I creating separation from myself and others? Is indifference. Mm-hmm. Because as Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning, it's not hatred. It's not even, it's indifference that caused the Holocaust. It's indifference to seeing us as mothers and fathers, children, grandparents, artists, human beings, all wanting that same connection with our loved ones.
Yeah.
And so for me, I use indifference as a red flag. Oh, if I'm going there, that's a real slippery slope. And that's the unhealthy part, is when we start objectifying and lumping people into groups versus, seeing like, I see you as you, and you're valuable, and you're worthy, and yeah, okay, you have your patterns too, and I don't have to love those, but you're more than that. Yeah. And let's focus on the more than that than the stuff in form, the stuff in, that shows up that's, learned, historical, part of a collective consciousness, and let that go.
That reminds me, Pete Holmes, the comedian, has a great podcast, and he and his wife, they're very supportive of one another's journeys, and I think she's in psychology now. But when they get kind of, a little bit off center, the other would say, Pete would say to Val, I see you in there, It's a way of recognizing, I know, I don't know what's going on, but I know, I've been there. I know what that is. So I like that. I see you in there.
Imagine if we all said that to our children when we were frustrated with them, or they're acting out in school, and the teacher could come up and say, hey, breathe. I see you in there. Mm-hmm. God, wouldn't that be incredible? If that's what kids got in school? Yeah.
In school, in family.
In family, everywhere. Yep, everywhere. Yeah. Oh, the world would just be an amazing place, but it already is. And it already is.
Wow. So that, oh, that was, thank you, Honey Bunch, for bringing that up. And thank you for everything that has bubbled up and come to light today. Um, Reverend Helen, can you, because I don't think we talked about it when we were talking about Welcome Home. Can we just go back to Welcome Home for a minute and let us
Mhm.
know where people can, I mean, we're going to ask for your information in a bit anyway, but like if people want to tune into Spirit Breath right now and the app that is coming out, what's the news around that?
Ah, so we're almost ready to launch. We're going to be part of the Mind Body app, which a lot of yoga studios and that different modalities are with workout centers. So you'll be able to go on and see all the classes and register for a single class, do a monthly membership, a yearly membership. That is just about ready. We have like a few behind the scene things that still have to be linked up and we're waiting for approval. So hopefully by the middle of April,
Okay.
that will start to launch. Now, there is a website, and I believe it is, and I'm just going to look it up. Where you can sign up for the newsletter, and that'll let you know when I think it's welcomeom.space. So I'm just double checking. But at the same time, in the meantime, if you want to, yes, it is. It's welcomeom dot space. And there's a splash page up there that says coming soon, and you can sign up for our newsletter,
Right.
and we'll let you know when we are launching that. But in the meantime, if you go to my website, welcome OM, OM again, Toronto.com, and you click on Spirit Breath, it will give you a schedule of all the free classes you can join into. The Zoom link is there and talks a little bit about Spirit Breath.
And so normally we do this after the super rapid fire question round, but since we're talking about it now, are these the two main links or URLs that you would like to give out to people? Or is there another way that would be a good way to get in touch with you to learn more about who you are and what you do?
To learn more about me and what I do, welcomeomtoronto.com.
Okay.
My information is there. I do have another website, which I was actually thinking this week I should change it to helenvalleau.com, but it is a year of possibilities.com. That has a bunch of stuff. And then, yeah, I'd say just in terms of Welcome Om, it's the welcomeom.space.
Okay. All right. That is
And people can
fantastic.
always email me too if they
Okay.
want.
And they can
Yeah.
they can email you through Welcome Home Toronto or a Year of
Yes, they
Possibilities,
can.
right?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll put up a slide that has that information on there, and we'll put it in the description for every single podcast. You know, when it gets released later today. So let's see. Since we have done that, before we go, we're going to launch into this fun little light segment called the Super Rapid Fire Question Round, where there's going to be a minute. Glenn is going to bombard you with questions, and we just want you to answer right off the top of your head, whatever comes into mind. Don't take tons of time like some of our other guests who are like, oh, come on, how can you ask me that? And yeah, it's just a way to have a little bit of fun and get to know you a little bit better. And then at the end, there will be a prize that Glenn will give out. So, Honey Bunch, are you ready?
But I get the prize?
You get an air
I
quote.
get a prize?
There's a prize. So yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
So okay, Mahoney, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Ready, set, and go.
Do you sing in the shower?
No,
How many tattoos do you have?
none.
Okay, which do you prefer, tea or coffee?
Coffee, strong.
Netflix or nature?
Both,
Buddha mind or Christ mind?
both.
Reading or writing?
Reading,
Swearing or hitting a pillow?
swearing.
Kindness or compassion?
Compassion leads to kindness.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Swimming or skiing?
Oh, skiing. Don't like water.
20th century or 21st century?
21st century.
Exercising the body or the mind?
Both.
Seinfeld or Friends?
Friends.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Ding, ding, ding,
Okay.
ding, ding.
Okay.
Okay, Reverend Helen gets the prize for the most both responses.
Yeah. Both and.
Yeah, yes, and. Okay, so Honey Bunch, tell her what she's won.
Okay. So normally I would read something from a book at this point. That would be your prize, a quote.
Cool.
However, you were the first to receive. These are the song lyrics from a song called Vapor, spelled the American way, Vapor, by a group called Gungor, Gungor. It's actually Michael Gungor and his wife Lisa and a few friends. And originally they were kind of in the Christian music mold because was where both of their background. He is now, I think, was renamed by Ram Dass as I'm going to get this wrong. I think Vishnu Das. I think like follower of Vishnu Das, follower of Vishnu. Okay, so this is the parts of the song. It's fairly long, but okay. Oh, the vapor of it all. It's a chasing of the wind, the substance of the form, so pale and thin. Let the veil of earth be stretched again. Holy, all behold the holy. Trees clap their hands for you. Oceans, they dance for you. Heaven taunts the hearts of men. We can feel it from within, the beauty of it all, the mystery, the swelling of a voice, a rising sea. I'm going to scroll down a bit to holy, the impossible and holy. Kings become fools for you, kingdoms to ruins for you. Vapor finds ground in you. Music finds sound in you.
Oh,
Come on.
love it.
Isn't that cool?
Best gift ever. Best prize
Check it
ever.
out on
Thank you.
YouTube or whatever. It's a great song. It's really nice.
Yes. And can you just send me the name?
Sure.
Or, yeah, would you just send it to me?
Yeah.
I'll look it up on Spotify.
Michael Gungor came up with the best expression, in my opinion. Lassie and I have been using this for a long time. When something's like unexpected and we're like, whatever, I don't know how to deal with this. His line is, "It's what's happening."
It's what's happening.
Yeah.
Ah,
that was
beautiful.
my paper last week for class. It's what's happening. So I have to tell you that not the first time, because the first time was from a book, but for our second and third guest, I think their prize was a meal from our favorite Indian restaurant here. And so Glenn took the takeout menu and he read them, based on what questions or how many questions they answered or something like that. Like he took that number and went to every category and they got an appetizer, an entree, something else. And so, yeah. And Reverend Dale, she was on and he's giving her a meat dish and she's like, but I'm vegetarian. So had to go and change it to something else. But that reminded me that, your husband, Derek, he is the owner of a super amazing, delicious Indian restaurant. Is it just one or is it more than one?
The restaurant, one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then he has a takeout location as well.
So I don't know if you want to give it a little plug on our show, because there will be people from Toronto traveling through Toronto who might want to eat there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, if you want the best Indian food ever, Hakka is where it's at. And a great wine program as well. Although outdoor dining is now closed, But when they reopen the patio in May, they'll have a beautiful, beautiful outdoor patio that you can drop into and enjoy some awesome Indian food, which I get to eat regularly.
The Pukka, pucka.
Yes, yes. It means in Sanskrit, exceptional.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, that's a great name then.
It is.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, Reverend Helen, thank you so much for being on our show today. And Honey Bunch, thank you so much for everything that you have brought to the table today and for that incredible prize with those beautiful, beautiful song lyrics. Wow.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you both. This was so much fun.
It
And
was
it's great to
fun.
see the two of you. It's absolutely delightful.
Well, thank you. And thank you for giving us almost 2 hours of your time. I know you have lots on the go and it is a long weekend right now in Canada. So I don't know if there's other stuff that you have happening, but thank you. Really appreciate you, your time, your insights, everything that you shared with us today. And we appreciate everyone who tuned in, everyone who listened, watched, however you enjoyed this episode. And just thank you for everything that you do, everything that you do when you come and you enjoy and sort of engage with us the way that we do. So thank you, Reverend Helen Valleau, for being our guest. Thank you, Glenn Sheridan, for being my co-host today. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. We will see you again soon for another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lasia Kohut, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping make this podcast a reality. Today's special guest, Reverend Helen Valleau. Music, Vasco Lorenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, Sakma Sterke, copyright 123rf.com. For more information on this podcast and Lasia Kohut Soul Excavator, please visit www.lasiakohut.com. If you like what you've heard, please like, subscribe, or let us know by leaving a comment. Thanks for tuning into Who Do You Think You Are?